Hello, hello, hello. I am back with my lovely friend Chantelle from Aquarius Rising Africa and Solutions with Aquarius Rising. How are you doing, Chantelle?
Well, we've certainly not been around for a couple of weeks, you and I. So I've missed you actually. And it's really great to be back and always enjoy being on your channel. And I love the topic we're talking about. So I think it's wonderful. How are you?
Do you know, I'm really good today. I've been up and down the last few weeks. We haven't done our normal. For anyone who's listening, thank you so much for joining us. And please do let us know in the comments where you're joining from. And we're open to answering questions as we go through this live. We want it to be interactive.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for being here, everyone. I am really good today, and I'm really good today because I sort of had a bit of a mind shift. I think probably about a week ago, I had a little bit of a downer with, and it ties into what we're going to be talking about today. And what we're going to be talking about today is how just because we might think we're on a spiritual journey, a spiritual waking journey on an individual level as a community level, it doesn't mean that we've won the war and we're all just sitting back and watching a movie. Hi, Carol. Thank you for joining us. And I
Hello,
think
Carol.
a week ago, I was a little bit like, oh my God, what am I seeing? What am I hearing? And it's this fine line, Chantelle, between absolutely wanting to enjoy your life in the here and now, absolutely understanding that there's so many solutions out there, which you obviously talk about. You've got a whole channel dedicated to that. But equally about not being pulled into the trap
Right.
of the very, very clever trap that the evil assholes, oh, I mustn't say that too much on the platform one, are
Creatures.
so clever at pulling us into. So tell us where you're at with all this.
Firstly, I couldn't agree with you more that this is really, the Great Awakening is really exactly as it says, the Great Awakening. But now let's think about that, what that means. Think about yourself and probably many of your friends as well, all of us, right? We've all gone through this experience. Wakes up for the first time after a very long sleep. You know that sometimes you wake up after you've really slept so well and so deeply, and suddenly you just don't know where you are. And it takes you like a few minutes to register. Yes, okay, I'm here, whatever, But I think this is the beginning. It's certainly not winning. And that's possibly and potentially what the creatures of the night, or the Lucies, as I love to call them, have wanted us to believe, right? Because there's also been so much bullshit spirituality in the past decade or two coming out there. I mean, really, that they themselves have put out there as part of the, of the deception. So if you haven't understood spirituality in its true essence, which has nothing to do, no, I wouldn't say it's got nothing to do with how many times you breathe or whatever it is. Of course it's got, but that's not the only thing. There's so much more to that. It's on an emotional, spiritual, mental, physical level. And then when that's integrated, then do we take the next step? So I think that's, for me, so many people are thinking exactly that. Oh, well, the white hats won, or they're winning, and nonsense. I don't believe that, not for 1 second. All we have to do is look around us, right? So in my opinion, this is where the journey begins. It's about letting the light in, right? This planet has been in darkness for a very long time. So now we have to let the light in, because that light will dissolve the darkness. But what we must never forget is we are the light. We are the ones that are bringing in the light. And that is our consciousness. So if our consciousness is not allowing for the light to be grounded, then it's a dangerous time for that. Because, this is the spiritual warfare. We all know we're in that. Just look around you, look at this war being declared on our kids. So it really is. And what we really need to understand is that this is where it begins, because we are awakening to millennia of abuse, deception, betrayal, murder, indoctrination, crimes against our fellow humans. That's what we've awoken to. So now what are we going to do with our spiritual awareness that we think we've won the war with? What are we going to do with that in order to help change the current situation? And every one of us is called to do something different.
Yeah.
But each and every one of us is called to do something. And I also hear so many people saying, oh, well, I'm praying for them. Prayer is fantastic. You might be the answer to somebody's prayers, though. You know, so just you getting up, giving someone a meal, or helping at the animal shelter, or taking the dogs for a walk, or helping at the old age home, or whatever it is, you know, starting a new school. I mean, that's the change. You are the answer to somebody's prayer. And for those of us who are doing this work, it's really about opening up the pathways. We are trailblazers, those of us who are doing this stuff. We're trailblazers in this time. So we've got to find ways to open up the pathways and keep them open and get others to realize it's a good path to tread.
I love it.
So we just really, it's only the beginning. It's like already, you know, when you at the athletics track, you know, and the guy goes, ready, you know, and you go, yes. The pistol hasn't even been fired yet. So that's where we're at, you know. We're now called to put our skills to work, and it's not an easy time. It's the change of an era. You know, we can go right or left. So what do you choose? And, you know, we're also at the stage now where we can literally let our karma go. But in order to do that, you know, it's like we believe we've had to carry all this karma and human beings, right? I also believe that we're at the time where we can let that go now, if we choose to. But it doesn't mean you get off scot-free, if that makes sense. You're able to let your karma go because you've reached a certain level of consciousness, if that makes sense. So we've reached, and that's where mastery comes in. So now the next step is actual mastery. And what is mastery? Someone who can levitate and do somersaults in the air? No. It really is just...
Spoil it for me.
I think it might be part of it.
Boy, honestly, I was going to demonstrate that for you. So
I love it. I want to see it.
Yeah.
I want to see it. So yeah, you know, just in ending to what I was saying, it's really just we've reached that place where we understand that we can work together to create a different future. Let that old stuff go, the old hurts, the old wounds, the old grudges we've bought. All of that stuff, that's part of our past. That's part of our old karma. We're now stepping into the new earth. Not the new world order, the new earth, which says we've understood all of these things. We've now become wise. And now we move into the next level where we put all of these things into action. So now we've got to act on what we know. That's where we're at. And that's why I say it's just the beginning. This is so not.
And I think, I agree with everything you're saying there. And thanks, Dennis and Carol in the chat, really agreeing with everything you're saying as well. And I think, you know, I just want to, the reason I really wanted to speak to this, credit where it's credit due, is I love the Inspired channel with John Nolan, and he's really good. And I listened to a video that he put out yesterday where he was talking about this and other things. And I think keeping our awareness, you know, I don't get out much. Don't get let out much. But when I do, I'm in my little... with the fairies in the woods. But I met some really lovely old friends on Wednesday night, and so many places in the UK now are not taking cash, and most people are completely unaware. When we're talking about the trap, and obviously, you know, that's the name of one of David Icke's books, and it's so true, because all these things you can look at and think, well, it's convenient, it's saving, it's not spreading germs, joke of that. You know, you can always justify these changes in some way that could be looked like that they were meant to be there to help us all. But when you know the final destination, and anyone who doesn't know the final destination, go and look at what is an Agenda 2030 or Agenda 21 as it was. It's all in there in black and white. And when you look at it with a new pair of eyes, so if you look at the World Health Organization, everyone's saying, oh, they were defeated with whichever treaty it was. I lose track of the name, Chantelle. But they did ratify new amendments to the international health regulations. And that's gone through completely, you know, things. Just waving to the lady who's just ridden my horse. And you look at the digital currencies, you look at how they're pushing bird flu and everything that's going with that. You look at what's happening in our education systems. Anyone who just needs to look up at the sky and realize that the fluffy clouds are being very rapidly replaced every day with the straight line ones.
Right.
The signs, even I would ask you to look at people like Elon Musk with, you know, X being taken over and free speech. Well, why are we chipping people's brains? I was having a very interesting conversation with some really lovely ladies about artificial intelligence. Now, I will say, I am not saying that any tool is inherently good or inherently bad, but you've got to look at the different sides of it and what controls are being placed. How are we looking at? I've been playing around this week. It's hysterical. I recommend everyone does this. Chantelle, I wish we were close enough to sit there on a Friday evening with a bottle of wine and do this together, because
we can do it on Zoom.
We'll do it on Zoom. If anyone wants to join us one Friday evening, let us know and perhaps we'll do that. It'd be brilliant, because I encourage anyone to go and have a play with ChatGTP. I put in some search questions that I probably can't say on the platforms we're airing on at the moment, about what's the real situation about this, what really happened with World War I and World War II, what are the real side effects of the jibbity doodah, although I will tell you something about that in a moment. And when you see that whole generations, we know that Google is completely controlled and they're completely giving a controlled narrative. So everyone thinks we're in an information age where we've never had more access to information, but we've only had access to their information. We all know we know the natural health healers, we know the free energies. You know, look, I'm in the UK. If they can get rid of Catherine, you know, if we can get rid of Catherine, Princess of Wales, William's wife, and no one's done anything. We're now 6 months in. Where is this poor woman? Where are her children? If you can get away with that, I won't say the M word, then no one is accountable for these things. I really hope she's alive and well. It's looking increasingly unlikely. Her mother was involved in a head-on collision, really serious one, in a car, complete radio silence. Miraculously, on the same time as all these announcements comes out, one of the other members, her sister's ex-boyfriend, commits suicide by shooting himself. I mean, hello, you know, this is the problem, is who's been arrested for the Epstein stuff? How is Hillary Clinton, or is she? You know, this is what I mean. We can talk about how corrupt things are, but when these people are still walking the process, what on earth is happening with the Biden puppet and Russia? So it's not about scaremongering, folks. It's really not. It's about coming back to what Chantelle said, to say now's the time when the real work begins, in our opinion. Now's the time when all we've been talking about, we start to put into practice. We hold the line and we make that line stronger and we move forward together.
Absolutely. I so agree with you around that. And also, you know, again, just to reiterate, this is not about fear mongering.
No.
I mean, I think the fear of how far we've allowed this process to occur to us, that we are just so dumbed down and we've been used literally as vermin and lab rats for these guys. That's, I mean, you speak to anyone who's come out of the arcane and they'll tell you that that's the case, right? They hate us. So, you know, the fact that it took the jibby jab, zappity doodah day to wake up so many people. That's scary that we even allow. That's how far they managed to dupe us. And thank God they didn't get what they, I mean, and with some people, they certainly have been able to take them over to the other side, so to speak. But it's also been a great awakener for hundreds and thousands and probably millions of people all over the globe. So that's the good thing, you know, and that's why I say, as we say, now, what are we going to do? What are we doing this information we're seeing? Are we just sitting as keyboard cowboys and giving our opinion, you know, just carrying on with our daily lives, working for Illuminati companies, supporting businesses that are them? I mean, we're screaming and shouting on the internet about how awful they are, yet most of the companies, if you work for the banking system, that's, you know, anything like that, any finance sort of thing, it's all owned by them, you know. So we've sat here for a long time. So now how do we undo that? What can you as an individual do? And that's where I go back to saying what I usually do. We have to start a spiritual practice and connect to our higher self, to Christ, to God, whatever it is that works for you, Buddha, whatever it is that works for you, right? To go back to that space and reach your higher state of consciousness and know that you are guided during these times. You know, we are all created from a little bit of God, a little piece of God, right? All of us have that. So when we awaken to that and we tap into that, that's when we know exactly where to go, what to do. And that's when these synchronicistical meetings occur. Suddenly you meet the right people at the right time. Suddenly you've got something, they've got something. You start a business. Suddenly you start growing your food. Suddenly you inherit a farm where you can start, I don't know, you know, miraculous things occur. But we've got to keep our eyes open, because now it's all about watching for the signs. Yeah. Now I've got to look for the signs. What are the signs? The biggest sign, I'll tell you, would be your gut, your belly, your intuition. And so many of us have not trusted that. That's why we got ourselves into this crap to begin with, because we were not trusting our intuition. Our intuition is that connection, right? It's invisible, but oh boy, is it powerful. And when we've disconnected from our intuition, we go into frenetic mode, and then we make bad decisions most of the time. So when we're in that space of connecting, reconnecting to our intuition, trusting that, understanding discernment, doing the work that's going to get you there, and acting on it as well. Be kind to people, smile, laugh, dance, do lots of fun things, because that's also part of getting your energy going. So we have to be able to build that momentum. And we can, you know what? As much as yes, there are wonderful leaders out there. And yes, some people have to lead. You know, there are always those people. We need brilliant leaders. And we've got to be discerning enough as to how do we get them. And you know, what do we do to contribute to the society that is awesome and that builds an awesome society? For me, that's really what it is.
Yeah, it's a very good point, Jojo, about, you know, how we need some of these financial people, how we do still need to plug into some of the system. And that is true. But for me, it's all about really concentrating on what we can do and asking better questions and educating ourselves more. I mean, one of my jobs for this year is to educate myself more in terms of on the legal side of things. And I, you know, I've followed a lot of the stuff, but, you know, there's still a lot of confusion, I think, there, because at the end of the day, I'll come back to what I said before about if they can disappear members of the royal family, if they can have politicians that we know are corrupt, still walking the planet. I mean, look at Julian Assange. You know, the people, it was proven that certain members of the American CIA and government literally tried to have him assassinated, and nothing's been done about it. So acting like a precocious little child and saying it's not fair. You know, one of the best things my dad always used to do to us, Chantelle, when we were children, is whenever we say it's not fair, he said, no, life's not fair, get on with it. And we've got to stop about things. No, I'm talking to the converted here with this audience, but I think not resting on our walls. I am still, and it's interesting why I'm attracting this, probably because it's such a trigger for me. But so many wonderful people just message me all the time saying, oh, it's fine because the med beds will be here. They're coming. And I'm like, you were telling me that 4 years ago. It's the biggest trap ever to make people wait. Anyone that's encouraging you to just wait and do nothing because your savior on whatever white horse is coming is a trap.
Yeah, exactly. And I so agree with that. And anyone, I mean, if you guys haven't understood the medbed thing yet, then I want to highly encourage you to listen to Caleb's shows, because he'll tell you exactly what the medbeds are. And it's not nice. You know, again, I mean, we understand that everything that is created comes from God or the light.
Yeah.
But what these guys are so good at is literally having stolen that, inverted it, and work for and it's very cleverly done, very cleverly packaged. And if you're not in your true faith and discernment, you're going to get caught up. That's what we keep saying. So it really is, you know, it's the spiritual work and understanding what path you need to be working in now, or going in which direction. You know, we don't have 2 years to think about it anymore while we just like bugger around in the back room, right? Get up, meditate, pray, walk, run, move your body, eat healthy, fast, do whatever it is that you do to get your information from your higher self, you know. Then and it's amazing when you do, because those moments that you get, those downloads or those aha moments, as I call them as well, you know, it's like every light in every cell of your body just sparks up. And you know, beyond a shadow of doubt, that's what you need to do. And always follow your heart. It's one thing being scared or nervous about taking a new direction, but your heart knows whether it's a absolutely not, or yes, I'm so happy, let's do it, but I'm so damn scared, but we're doing it anyway. You know, you've got to learn to discern when to step forward and when to move back. And that's what this work is about. That's what the awakening is about. We're becoming masters of this planet. And when I'm not talking about gods, guys, but masters within we attaining mastery, which, as I was saying earlier, we understand we don't have to carry our past baggage with us anymore. It's enough. We've reached this point where it is enough. But you, and as an individual, will only be, and as I was saying earlier as well, it's not like everyone can suddenly forget everything that ever happened. I think once you realize that you're able to do that, you're not trying to pull a fast one over anyone's eyes or anything, but you really do understand, and it's a humble thing. And then you move on, and then you start working with other things.
I love it. And both Chantelle and I'm just putting something along the bottom here. Both Chantelle and I are so passionate about sharing solutions. And we both talk about a lot of the solutions we work with, because I was having a lovely conversation with a client this morning, and I was saying, look, you know, I personally 100% believe we can cure anything, manifest anything from the power of our own our own source energy, basically. But I have not reached that level of attainment yet. I haven't reached that. So therefore, I need tools and techniques. And both Chantelle and I share a lot of tools and techniques that are going to protect our energy field, get us to tune in more into our intuition, really help us along that journey, because we do all need help, whether it's taking toxins out, whether it's mitigating some of the EMF, whether it's getting our energy fields back into balance, whatever it might be. You know, reach out and use those tools, the good ones that we know that we can trust, so that we can actually really be the strongest, most powerful versions of ourselves and true guardians of the planet. You know, and what I mean by that, Chantelle, is we often talk about, you know, what do we you know, what is our rules as humanity on the planet? Because we talk so much about, you know, what's the best for humanity, and we so often forget about, we share this planet with loads of other species, plant species, animal species, the beautiful geology, the beautiful nature we're surrounded with. And I very much see ourselves as guardians to nurture and just really stewards of everything around us, whether it's our families, whether it's our communities, whether it's nature, because we as a species have got such a huge potential to do so much good as well as so much damage.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. I love the way you said that as well, because, you know, we are guardians and we are stewards. You know, in my opinion, again, and I've said this before quite often actually, the Bible is often misconstrued, and the way it puts things has often given humanity a contorted idea, right? So it's like, in the Bible, it states where human beings have dominion over the planet. Now, in my opinion, that is a very dangerous word, because it just doesn't sound nice. We dominate. We have domination over everything else, and which is why, you know, so many humans feel all the right to treat animals the way they do. And rather than to change that word dominion to stewardship or guardianship, or as the Native Americans call it, husbandry.
Yeah.
You know, so to have that attitude in this world, but we cannot reach that stage until we've understood that within ourselves. You see, that again comes from a self-respect, you know, understanding and respecting your potential as a human, your power as a human. And that's what we talk about when we've reached that understanding of knowing what it is to have stewardship over the planet. That's mastery.
Yes.
Right there. Because you've understood things. That kindness is actual true strength, not how big my muscles are and how big my guns are. You know, and kindness and compassion, that's actual true strength. And when you can revel in that, you know, that's like the soup from God that you kind of marinate in, right? So you like marinating in that knowledge, because you now have overcome your fears about not having enough, or losing my job, or not going to get another increase, or whatever it might be. Think back to the Zappity Day. How many people absolutely broke their own trust in themselves and went for this thing, knowing that it was not good?
And what lessons? It's such good points. And thank you, Dennis. Yeah. If you've got any questions in the chat, feel free to put them in. We're happy to answer most of them, depending what they are. But it's such a good point, because it's also about recognizing and course correcting, because there's nothing wrong with being, you know, of pure mind and spirit, where you see the best in everyone. And of course, you know, we've had learn, and that's part of changing from a child to an adult normally, although not sure how much that happens anymore, given people's behavior, particularly on social media. But, you know, part of that growth and going through the different stages in life, you know, we see in many communities where they had this rite of passage from going from, you know, girl to woman, boy to man. And these can be so powerful. But making sure, one of the biggest things is we have to get to the stage where we're really open and happy and ready, and not carrying any shame about being wrong, about being fooled. It's that old session about, you know, fool me once, fine, fool me twice, you know, different matter. And I think this is one of the things that we could make the biggest breakthrough here. If we let go of the shaming, if we let go of the not willing to accept that we've been fooled, and we just accept it, we can move on so quickly. And that really negates so much of that negative energy. When we're carrying with those low vibrational things with us, it's really hard to move forward and really step into the light, isn't it, Chantelle?
It really is, you know. But I also just find, Catherine, I've been walking this path for many years, and like literally when I started the work that I've created over the years, it was something, it was like all in a jumble in my head, and I had to figure it out and make it something tangible for others to understand, which has been a beautiful process for me, I have to say. But that understanding of energy can never be created or destroyed, only ever transferred or transformed. Boom. That for me, in the courses I do, that's the golden mantra everyone goes back to. So when you want to try and destroy someone, hurt them, hit them in whichever way, whether it's financial, physical, whatever, that's the understanding. So everything comes back to me, because when I can start understanding my life, my shortcomings, my weaknesses, my strengths, my ability to go with the flow or be rigid and controlling. You see, all of us have these things, and these things create the consciousness of the earth. And so the more we are these things, the more the earth carries that consciousness. So if we want change for the earth, we have to want change for everyone on the earth. And we must understand that we are one. And what hurts me will inevitably hurt you in the deeper scheme of things. So if I don't like being hurted that way, why would I want to do that to you? Simple. Because you haven't healed that wound inside of you yet. So you'd rather project it out onto somebody else. So when you can go within and heal your own wound, see where that wound came inside of you to begin with, and how do we change that? That's where we begin. And then that path it's a trajectory that takes us to the next level of creation. Remember, we are master creators and manifestors. So if we're manifesting and creating pain in our lives and in our surroundings, as many of us are, that's coming from our inner being. And I know that's a complex situation. A lot of people, what do you mean? Da, 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 da. Well, if I speak to you individually, then I will explain it to you, how it affects you as an individual. And we work with that. It's difficult to talk about these things generically as well, but it is. It's if you understand these principles and you start applying them to yourself, that's when the magic happens. That's when the change happens. That's when we start seeing the world very differently. And that's what the awakening is about. Those of us, it's like we've popped out of our eggs. It's like chickens coming out of an egg. And now we're running around frantically, not knowing, for the first couple of weeks of a chicken's life, it's in danger, and especially when it's just popped open, it's now open to all the elements, right? And it's the same with us. We wake up, we've woken up to all this stuff. What do we do? What do we do? And it's a beautiful time, because more and more people are getting that, right? They're getting that, and they're finding their communities. I mean, I know I'm on your channel now, but Aquarius, right? And I know, because you've got a lot of similar guests as well, right?
Yeah.
And everyone is like, supporting each other and, helping each other and encouraging and getting together and doing things and finding their way. It's awesome, actually. That's the time. And that's why I love these shows, because it facilitates that. So I think it's a beautiful time. Yeah.
I've done some very good headless chicken impressions, running frantically around like, what do I do with all this? And then you, as you say, you calm down, you center yourself, you ground yourself, and you think, okay, where do I go for this? But there's a huge difference, I think, also between passion and forcefulness. That you can tell when someone's really passionate and coming from a place where they really have got the collective interest at heart. And right. I would sort of be asking, and I'd love people in the comments to let us know what you think. At the moment, I'm afraid I can only see comments in the chat from YouTube. I can't see from X or Facebook. So I'm sorry about that if people are leaving comments elsewhere. It only shows up the ones from there. But what I would love to know is, where are people at in terms of really deciding, okay, what is my purpose right here, right now? How am I going to give myself the strength to, I think Dennis mentioned it earlier about, or Carol about, no, Carol did, about sitting in a room of people who don't like you and you know it. What are we doing to change our resonance where people might relate to us in a different way? I went out with some friends this week, and we've got very different perspectives on lives, and you know, really fantastic group of women. And I really loved the way a couple of the teachers were asking really lovely open-ended questions about, well, how do you see this situation? And are we able to ask how people see the situation and really sit there and listen and feel in to understand where they're coming from? Because if we get that level of understanding of how people do see the world, so I've been doing some training and coaching myself, and you know, we talk about what spiritual glasses have you got on, how are you seeing the world, what lens are you looking at the world from? And when we can try and understand what glasses other people are seeing the world from, then we can be more creative about how we can perhaps approach things, and perhaps get them to take the glasses off a little bit and put a different pair on for a bit and see how that feels for them.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think, you know, this is certainly a time where I've often said so many people have awoken, and not really knowing which direction to take, you know. And again, you know, and I think it's, once we understand that, and then just stand still for a minute, you know, sometimes standing still. There's a song by Sarah Brightman, which I love. One of the lyrics of one of his song, one of the lines, rather, the lyrics is, sometimes standing still is the best thing you can ever do. Because it's like that moment where you just tap into silence, because silence is not empty. It is full of answers. Full of answers if you allow yourself to listen, right? So grab your journal, do whatever, start that process. It's just amazing. And you know, be prepared that you're going to lose people along the way.
Yeah.
That is just the way it is right now. And it doesn't mean that you have to be fighting and shouting and screaming. I mean, I've moved forward and on from people that I never in my life thought I would move forward from. You know, certain relationships, one tends to think that they're lifelong. Oh no, the universe says, I have other plans for you on this one. Dish, off you go. You know, and that's happening a lot right now with a lot of people. And if that happens to you, let it go. You know, that what comes, let it come. That which stays, let it stay. And that which leaves, let it leave. It's quite a Zen way of thinking about things. But honestly, in my opinion, if anyone has got that right, the Zen masters do, and the yogi masters, the saints, so to speak, of the planet, but the true ones, not the dodgy ones.
I love this. What Jojo said is, sometimes I frustrate my wife because I can so easily put myself in other people's shoes. And it's interesting. And how do you feel about that, Jojo, when you put yourself in your wife's shoes? I heard a really brilliant thing when someone was saying about, someone asked her, they were asking someone a question about, are they anti-vax? And the guy said, well, how did he put it? It was hysterical. He said, well, I only normally answer questions like this when I've walked a mile in someone else's shoes, because then you're a mile away from them and they've got no shoes, so they can't run after you. Which I thought was brilliant. But it is interesting. And I think, yeah, I've been questioning a lot over the last couple of weeks. What beliefs am I still really attached to? And I think, you know, when you've been watching about the Anthony Fauci stuff, in terms of some of the things that he's been hauled over the calls for now, I would just be asking people to say, well, yeah, you know, when we look at, I've seen him being hauled over the calls for some of the animal experimentations. We've all seen that awful picture of the beagles with their heads covered in mosquitoes. It's disgusting. But then you and I have talked so many times, Chantelle, about what are the rest of the population of us accepting as part of our daily life and choosing to bury our heads in the sand. Because animal experimentation, that is horrendous. And I'm absolutely not saying he shouldn't be picked up on it, but I'm saying perhaps part of the reason why it creates such outrage in us is because probably every single one of us listening here has not stood up when we might have done other ones, has not made different choices when we might have done otherwise. So even though we might not be the ones actually conducting those experiments, how much have we really done to stop the animal abuse, the animal testing
Exactly.
in our daily
And
life?
exactly. And are we using products that have chemicals and ingredients that animal tested? You see, we are the market. We are the market for these things. So
Yeah.
when we just blindly consume, that's the problem. So we've got to be a lot more picky about what we're choosing, who we're choosing to support. That's why I say, start community businesses.
Yeah.
Cooking, baking, sewing from home. Start, trading these things, growing your gardens, having your chickens, whatever it might be, Start trading with these things amongst your community.
Mm.
Instead of going to these places that spray our food half to death, that are using factory farmed animals that have lived in the most disgusting conditions. But in my opinion, even the ones that are having awesome lives that really didn't want to die at all. If I was a factory farmed cow, I'd rather want to die rather than be a free range cow running around, jumping and laughing. And the next thing, boom, off to the slaughterhouse I go.
Yeah.
Um,
Or having
I,
your calves, the awful pictures of the sheep and the cows running after the trailers where their calves have been taken away. So yeah, that it's a complex situation. We're not pretending there's sort of easy answers to some of this. And Sherry, how amazing all the work you're doing. Jojo, how amazing with the work to do. It's fantastic. That everyone's got such skills here. We've got, as a collective community, there's so many skills here. We can all learn from each other. We can all take feedback. And going back to the original starting point, in terms of just because we're doing this work, having an awakening doesn't mean we've won, whatever winning means. It just means, I really think now, in terms of a community standing strong, helping each other through it, continuing to point out the traps that we're all being enticed into so much, is, as you said right at the start, Shanti, is when the real work really starts.
Indeed. And it's fun. It's not work. It's actual fun. It's actually such a joyful experience when you start delving deep, and everyone seems to be so terrified to do that, but that is so not necessary.
Yeah, it is fun. It is, we're here to experience everything. We're on a planet of duality. We're experiencing duality. I don't think there's anyone here who's not experiencing duality. And we're already seeing by, people like sharing in the comments just how much people are doing to overcome things, to make the changes, to live in a different way. So I applaud each and every one of you. And I love these conversations, Chantelle. It always makes me think at a much deeper level. I think it's perfect for the end of the week so that we can all have hopefully some reflective time. Any final words from you before we finish?
Just have fun doing what you're doing. We make a decision. The first thing we have to do is decide what you want. And once you've made the decision, decide to have fun while you're doing it. And it really is fun. And I mean, obviously not every single day is going to be the same. The difficulties absolutely arise, but decide to face them. Sit down, don't run away from it. And when you do, it peels away the most incredible stuff, and you start receiving the most amazing information, which gives you your confidence, it gives you your good health, it gives you your energy, it gives you all the good vibrancy. So just stay with it. It's amazing.
I love it. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. We really love you joining us in these chats. It really does make a difference being live and being able to see your comments. So for everyone who's, taken the time to actually make a comment, thank you so much. It really is pulling all the energy together. You can really feel it. Now, next week, we will be back on Chantelle's Solution with Aquarius Rising. You know, we'll be getting back into our Friday chats. Please do come and join us there. Please do subscribe to our channels. It really, really does help. You know, we all know the censorship is out there. So we really appreciate you being here and really appreciate you, Chantelle. Thanks so much.
And so do I appreciate you. Thank you, Catherine. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much, everyone. See you next week. Bye.